The best stories.
I'm going to show you some of the best things going on right now.
The best stories
are authentic.
They are relevant.
thought-provoking.
Emotional is probably the first
The best
one for me.
stories are humorous,
shareable.
They
I think
are
emotional.
entertaining.
They're unique.
I would
And
say
relevant.
inspiring,
Honest.
real
colorful,
stories that are good today.
and
just
they're
take-
emotional.
Those are some of the best stories.
Hello and welcome into Storyteller from SiriusXM Studio at Wynn Las Vegas. I'm Sky Muller. We have our awesome crew in the booth running the cameras, running the audio. We've got the always reliable Seth Gillitzer out in the lobby running all the graphics using Tagboard Producer, everything you see behind us, everything you see in front of us, all running off of that laptop. And of course, our guest of honor, an executive-level entertainment and sports marketing professional with over 20 years of experience in promoting live events, venues, managing events. We're talking AEG, we're talking MGM, the Harlem Globetrotters, Super Bowl host committee. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. But Suzanne Richardson, welcome into Storyteller.
Hi, thank you.
This is a beautiful headshot as well. We like to go with more natural images on our headshots as stuff that might have a story behind it. Does this image have any sort of story behind it?
So I will give shout out to a very good friend of mine who is a photographer, Larit. She does our family photos every year, and the benefit of having somebody that knows you, they tell you if you look good or not.
Yes, that is. They're honest with you. That's so key. Well, I gave a pretty big rundown of just highlights, but what would you say is your story? What would best sum up your career to this point?
One, you made me a lot younger, so thank you.
You're welcome.
I've had 30 years experience. I started out in sports, kind of stumbled on it. I was actually a history major, thought I was going to go to law school, decided that was not my world, took a course my senior year of college, marketing, worked at Allied Advertising, which at the time did all the movie previews, fell in love with event marketing, applied for, like a lot of people in my industry, started out in minor league baseball. The guy hired me because he literally brought me in for an interview and he said, I want to know what a girl who went to Penn, an Ivy League school, wants to do in minor league sports. And that was the start. And everywhere since then, one of the most important things about this industry is connections and relationships. And I've just kind of kept going. So I started sports, ended up on the venues, went to sports again, ended up as a concert promoter, and then back in venues and MGM. So I've kind of bounced around, but it's always been the live events that I'm passionate about.
What minor league club were you with?
Phoenix Firebirds.
Phoenix Firebirds. I actually started with the Everett Aqua Sox as I was the on-field MC, the person that's doing the in-between innings stuff and getting everyone fired up. But yeah, your minor league baseball is like a natural starting point, isn't it?
Yep. You make the phone calls. You can't get somebody after 3, you move on.
And you brought up connections and how critical connections are. Would you say that's as you look back on 30 years, connections drove everything?
Absolutely. My first job, as I said, I got it. After that, a lot of times it was people I was connected to. Either you build the reputation and people reach out to you directly, or somebody hears of somebody hiring for a job. The way I got the job at the Boston Garden, Fleet Center back then, Super Bowl, Olympics, MGM, AEG, they were all through people I knew and a reputation I had built. And it goes both ways. I have often recommended people for jobs because I had a relationship with them and I heard somebody was looking and connected them. Or I've picked up clients because of connections. And the one interesting thing, and I always share this story with younger people coming up, is realize you and I talked about how small your industry is. Realize how small it is. And one of the stories I always tell is when I was with Globetrotters, we had a date in a small town, and none of the media got placed. None of the promotions happened. Somehow we still sold tickets. But when I got there and talked to the building marketing guy, I was like, oh, sorry. That was it. There was no excuse, nothing. Fast forward years later, I am now on the venue side. This guy calls me to promote his show, and he suddenly realizes who I am. And he said, I hope you're not going to hold this against me. And I would realize what his thought was. He was never going to see me again. So when he said, oh, well, now, me was my work ethic. I kept going. But, you never know who you're coming across again.
That's such a good story and really highlights it of just no matter how maybe upset you might be in the situation, or you just can't burn those bridges because it is a guarantee that you're going to have to walk right back across that at some point. And that's a perfect example of it. I want to go back to early in your days with AEG, 2009. And we have an image to support this. You were opening the joint at the Hard Rock with Bon Jovi, Kenny Chesney's there. And we can't help but notice, I think there's about 14 people in this image. There you are front and center, though, the only female in the bunch. Does that also sum up a little bit of what you experienced in your career?
I did. It's definitely improved, but as I was going through photos to send you, there were so many like this. You know, me with the Santana Band and a bunch of male executives, me with Guns N' Roses and a bunch of male executives. It's just, you know, first of all, a lot of times females are on the marketing side in this industry, but overall there's become more female GMs, more female talent buyers, more female presidents, and it's amazing to see. But when I was coming up, I had a counterpart that handled shows over at the Coliseum, but we were kind of the only females, and it was a very much quieter market back then.
And that's now where I think you probably look back and you're like, with your connections, you have the ability to change that, right? And you were trailblazing, and now people can look and say, okay, I want to see that profession, and because I've seen people like me do it. But is that also a key to the connections, is like bringing in different personalities, different genders, different races, different upbringings into the profession?
Absolutely. It's a huge thing to me. I'm actually part of it just changed its name, Event and Venue Marketing Conference.
Yeah.
Conference is a little over 40 years old now. I was president for 4 years, very involved. And in the summer of 2020, when everything was happening with George Floyd, we kind of stepped back and looked at our conference, and we looked at the attendees, and we're like, where is the diversity on all levels? This is mostly a white female conference, some males, but so we looked at it and we decided, we created this committee, the Diversity and Equity and Inclusion Committee. We created the Impact Award to honor people giving back in their community, whether it was through work or through personal. And this girl, Chanel, created a mentorship program. And it's been phenomenal because it is actually, instead of looking for people to come to us, they are looking to bring people in. And as you said, it's diversity in every way, and just creating a welcoming environment to get more people involved in this industry. Half the time, people don't even know how to get into this industry.
Yeah.
I've stumbled on it. I didn't grow up knowing there was like a music industry that I could be a promoter for or work at a venue. So it's really helping to expose people. And I can't tell you how often people I've just known growing up have reached out to me and said, can my daughter talk to you? Can my son talk to you?
That's it. That's the
great.
start. That's so key. And I mean, props to you for lending your time that, you know, you're so busy with, you know, raising family, work and everything, but you're still willing to lend that time to bring up the next generation. What's been, for lack of a better word or a little, what's been the impact of the Impact Award here in the first few years? Because I think you just at Climate Pledge in 2023, there was the third Impact Award winner this year.
Yep,
this
it was
past year?
a little delayed just because of COVID and everything, but this year was, as I said, Chanel. She joined the committee right early on, younger generation coming in, didn't know her at all. We had said, does anybody want to be involved in this committee? Chanel reaches out to me 3-4 years ago when we started the committee, and she just blew me away. I'm like, this girl, this is the next generation. This is the future. She is so put together, so smart, so ambitious, and she's going to lead the next generation. So then the funny thing was, we're creating this committee, we're creating this mentorship, and she's like, can I just send you a couple ideas I have for this? She sends me an entire organized deck of what she saw this mentor program to be.
Wow.
And she has now been running it, and she has made a difference. So we awarded, so for her, it's a little bit professional and a little bit personal, but she won the Impact Award this year because she has definitely made an impact.
Oh, that is so awesome. And now in 2024, I think it's going to be in Denver. Is that correct?
Yes.
Are you going to be out there for it?
I am going. For me, it's kind of like a reunion every year. I laugh because, and this is going to show my age, but when we started in this industry in the 20s, we'd go to the conferences. Back then I was with Globetrotters, and we would look around and we'd say, oh God, why are all these old ladies here? Now there is a group of us who joke because we have become that older generation, but it's great to go reconnect with people we've known, kind of see the next generation coming up, mentor. Of course, they laugh when we start telling stories about what it used to be. I think I told you one of those on the phone the other day.
Absolutely.
But
what are you seeing from the next generation of leaders that are coming up?
it's interesting because the entire industry has changed.
Okay.
You know, back in the day, I mean, again, aging myself, but when I worked for Globetrotters, you would literally send out an ad slick.
Okay,
So
yeah.
not only were we buying newspaper, but we were sending ad slicks a lot of it, and I've said this my whole career, is anybody can buy general media, the TV, the radio, the print. You can teach anybody. It's thinking outside the box. So a lot of this next generation is thinking outside the box. As you know, everything has moved online. And one of the most important things with that is, with our world ever changing, and unfortunately things happen every day, you have to be able to stop, you have to be able to pause, and you have to be able to pivot. So it's been interesting to see that with the next generation. They also have much more access to bands. When I first started out on the music side, we had MySpace pages. I mentioned that to somebody recently, and they're like, "What's MySpace?"
Yeah, you got to learn a little back end and build your own little website, have your top 8 and everything. It was nice.
But that's how I learned about bands I had never heard of.
Oh,
is you
yeah.
go to MySpace, and now these kids in the next generation of promoters, they can find out information anywhere. So even if it's a family show, a concert, a monster truck show, whatever it is, they can go online, they can find access, they can find information. They have so much more materials and assets to promote with. And if they get stumped, they can just look at where these shows are going, reach out to another venue, and get help.
That's got to be so nice. I think I don't know if it's similar at all. I was back to my reporting days and on TV side, and I remember how easy and nice it felt that, like, if something happened or something would happen, easy to look up information, but then also easy to call on a cell phone back to a producer, and everything became easier and more access and everything, versus previously, before like cell phones and everything. It's like if you were out in the field and you had to get a hold of your producer, it was like, go on, find a phone booth or something to call them on it. It's just like there's the access is across all the industries is like changing how it's done. And so it's really interesting to hear how it's impacting on the live event side with the access to, and is that like access to from like a, like pre-show, like content creative and stuff like that? Or is that more, where's that kind of fit in?
That's always up to the actual artist. I just mean like going and finding the materials.
Yeah, I got you.
And you feel like you know these artists more because now with all the social media, you are following their lives. I mean, that's, look at the biggest thing right now. And I've become obsessed myself, and I'm not a Swiftie, but Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
There is stuff everywhere. So you start to feel like you know them. You're like, oh, she knows his mom. Oh, he was at her concert. Like, you feel like you know these artists. So sometimes that helps because you want to promote them more because you really like them. Sometimes the opposite happens. But the other great thing is now things have changed about backstage welcomes, artist gifts, and you can research and find out what they're really about, not just hand them a jersey. So you can find out more about them and help promote them. You can also find out, if they went to a certain college or they have a certain interest. Sometimes you can promote to those local organizations that tie them in, or their charities. You
sent a great image in of you with Justin Timberlake, and you were gifting a Phoenix Coyote jersey, which relevant as like the Coyotes are now going off to Utah. But how did you was the event in Phoenix, or like how'd you come up with the idea of gifting like the Coyote jersey?
So that was when I was in Phoenix. And it was kind of the standard at the time. Everybody gave jerseys. And I used to laugh and be like, how many jerseys do these people have? And do they even want them? Yeah. Fast forward a few years later, because it was the standard, like every artist coming in on the back of that, has Timberlake.
That's right.
But every artist coming in, oh, he's got a jersey. And then it started being like, what can you do more creative? Like Kenny Chesney, when I was down in Phoenix, we gave a belt buckle that said three-peat because it was his third time coming.
Oh, brilliant.
That was supposed to be unique. We did something here with Motley Crue. We gave them a Super Bowl. We gave them a football because it was Super Bowl weekend. Def Leppard, there was a Camaro in the ad mat. So we got the Camaro and we had their artwork put on it. Back then, that was considered incredible. Now, they are getting so unique and different. I asked a friend who won the conference award last year for Artist Gift, and it was somebody took roller skates for Nile Rodgers. I guess he's really into skating.
Wow.
And they did custom roller skates as the gift for that. So now it goes back to the access.
That's what
they can find out what this person loves, what they're really about, and create a gift around it or create the welcome. They used to walk into the arenas, and it was the arenas. And then it became certain artists, won't name names, but wanted their photo plastered all over the wall when they walk in, even if they had never played the venue. And that was the fun part, opening up a couple new venues and them saying, you have put photos all over. I'm like, but they've never played here. So what do you want us to? And they would literally send us photos.
Oh my God.
But now it's fast forward. There are lounges backstage. It's incredible what arenas are creating.
That's that on that axis. It's like now you could just scroll someone's social media account and find out what they're into, right? And
Yep.
and what was what was the tactic before to find out, like, dive deep on these artists?
Literally, all you would do is call their promoter
Okay.
or their manager and be like, can you tell me something about them? There was no way to dive deep. There was no access. Or you'd be like, let me see how creative I can get off of their song name or what town they were born in.
Yeah. Well,
or
that's
Jersey.
or a jersey. I love that there's storytelling in it a little bit, like what you said with the belt buckle and like the three-peat. Like you're thinking of like, how does this all tie in? And you're, I mean, a storyteller by nature. When you're promoting the event, where does storytelling play into that for you? Like as far as like trying to connect with people to get them like to attend.
Well, it's interesting because I've always said the hardcore fans are going to know when their bands
True.
are coming. It's the others you got to get out to, you got to reach, and it's trying to create an excitement about why you want to be at that show. It's not just about the music, it is about the experience. And that is one thing I have loved about the change in this industry is because it used to just be a concert.
Yep.
Now, except for certain bands like, Grateful Dead, everybody was about the experience. But now it's truly about the experience. And there's, sometimes there's teasers, like saying a band is coming up, but they don't really say they're coming. Or, after the Super Bowl, a tour is going to be announced. But it is truly a start to finish where there might be something in the parking lot, there might be something in advance, but the fans are coming in for a whole experience, and they're dressing up for the shows. I mean, I mentioned to you, my daughter, huge K-pop fan. They have these nightsticks, and each group has its own nightstick. So when we went to Women in Music's Billboard Awards, she brought her nightlight nightstick, and she looked around, and New Jeans was the group being
Yeah.
awarded Group of the Year, and she was like, "Mom, look at all the bunnies." Because they all had these lights that they were
Wow.
holding up. So it creates this community in this environment where they're all in it together versus I'm just here with my person.
That's so awesome. And yeah, you nailed it with like it's community, right? And so I can see when as a promoter now, it's you want to tap in to that community ahead of the event, probably even after the event as well. But you're really like helping build and grow the community around these artists. It's just fascinating to see, and the K-pop one's a good example of that. I love that. That's absolutely awesome. What so anything else you take like from your daughter that's helping you out nowadays? That it sounds like it's good to have like almost like an inside source in the industry.
All the groups have their own channels, so she learns and she knows, and she's constantly telling me stuff about these artists. And you really are learning who they are, and it creates more of a personal connection where this next generation feels so connected they want to be there.
Yes.
Like even like the whole Swiftie thing, they feel like they are part of their community.
That's so true. I mean, I've always appreciated Taylor Swift's music, but I didn't know I needed to be there until there's the FOMO effect, right?
Right.
Like the fear of missing out, and you're like, oh my gosh, I want to be a part of that community. Everyone's talking about it, and then with the Travis Kelce stuff, it's just been magical to watch. I want to go into, speaking of Travis Kelce, the football side. You helped with promotions and other things on an event, A Day in the Life, that Dr. Jen Welter, who's the first female NFL coach, just an absolute badass person. What did you take away? It's all about like empowering women to see, like we talk about representation of, getting to, hey, I want to be an NFL coach. And as a young girl, you might not think like that was an option for you, but now Jen is showing like that is possible. What was your takeaway from attending? Did you go 1 year, a couple years to this?
So this was my first year I actually
Okay.
worked it. I had not met Jen until about a month before the event. And I'm just driving in my car and all of a sudden my phone rings and it's her. And it just, the fact that she is that involved and that supportive of those helping her is amazing. She is, as you said, she is a true badass. I am such a huge fan of hers. But it was all about empowerment, and it was truly about teaching women to be strong,
Mm-hmm.
and that's okay to fall down, but then get back up, and about positivity. I love, like, there was the opportunity to sit down and truly learn the game of football. She had an entire playbook. You can see she has a lot of guys who played for her
Yes.
that come out and truly believe in this too. And it was just a day where all the women were in there together. It's about getting uncomfortable to get comfortable.
Oh,
and
yes.
getting outside of your zone. And one of the things she said that still stands with me is, if I don't expect your best and I don't ask for your best, how can you be at your best? And I think I told you I walked out of that day and I'm like, it inspired me to do a couple things that I've kind of had on the back burner.
That's so cool.
That she inspired me and the people working with.
Oh,
That's
that's
an
I
amazing
mean,
event.
I'm glad we can shout out everything with a day in the life. And the other thing I love that you mentioned was because I was scrolling on her social accounts trying to find like some good posts to put up, and I noticed all the like former NFL players that were coming out and supporting at the camps, and I was like, that is so important that they recognize, because it's just like they experienced her as the coach, and like that they're going to come and help support her and give back. It's just like everything. So yeah, that's an amazing camp. And let's keep the shout outs going though. We usually close the show, storyteller shout outs. Would love to, you talk about connections and like building up the next generation, or shouting out some other connections that have either helped you or you want to help in the industry. Who do you see out there that you think is just an awesome storyteller that deserves a shout out?
So Dr. Jen is definitely one of them. She also just got named a dame. I have to catch up with her to understand what this means. But she is a doctor, a coach, and a dame.
Does that mean getting like knighted in? Okay, that's what I thought. That's amazing.
This happened recently. Very cool. Another woman, like this goes back to relationships, Maria Bruner.
Okay.
An amazing woman. She has her own agency, Insight Management. But years ago, and we had talked about this probably 8 to 10 years ago, she was starting a nonprofit called Musically Fed. What they do is they go to the tours and ask for the catering. Typically, all that food just gets thrown away, which wasting food is a huge issue with me. But she goes, and they have arrangements now with multiple tours in multiple cities where they safely take the food and donate it to those in need. And her organization is growing and growing. And we talked about the other day, because I'm about to launch my own nonprofit, and talking about 8 years ago where she was in building this. And it's amazing to see. And it still ties into our industry, ties into something she's passionate about, but it's been a huge success.
That's so cool.
So you tours out there who would like to donate food, please get in touch with her.
Yes.
Wasting food drives me nuts. Another, going back to relationships, a guy, Zig Ziglar, I worked for about 30 years ago at his company, Pure Sport. They focused on youth athletes. Fast forward, he has worked with professional and youth for years. He is going to be, and there'll be much more details coming out and much bigger announcement in May, but Z Athlete Village is being built here. It's going to change the game for athletes, how their injuries are treated, how they train, but it's also going to be a world-class village of a indoor track facility, a aquatic center, and courts. So
dang.
It's literally going to change the landscape of Las Vegas because of this complex that's being built. But the events that are coming here, I mean, everybody knows we used to be the entertainment capital of the world. Now we're the entertainment and sports capital of the world.
Yes.
So it's going to be amazing. The other one I want to give a shout out in relation to that is just the city of Las Vegas and the LVCVA and the Strip, because every time you think this city can't get bigger and you can't get another event, they turn around. So every time you turn around, there is something bigger. It was this All-Star game, then it was the Super Bowl, the F1. It's like, what's next?
Yes. I mean, it can't, yeah, the Olympics will probably be, you mentioned the aquatic, the track. I just thought, first thing that popped in my head was Olympics.
A few people have asked that.
That's so cool. Those are all incredible shout outs, by the way. And I love too the understanding, like when you're in an industry, you can recognize where like there's issues like wasting too much food, and then to go out and be like, okay, I'm going to start a nonprofit now and solve this. Can't wait to find out what you've got cooking up there on the nonprofit. Was that another one that you took from a day in the life camp where you're like, I've been thinking about this and now I just got to go for it?
Yes. So I'll share a little. So Dr. Jen has two things. She has a day in the life. She also has her own nonprofit called Gridiron Girls.
Okay.
And it is free for youth flag football players, female youth flag football players, and she hosts clinics. So watching the empowerment, I happen to be a widow about 10 years now. And years ago, I wanted to start something and do something, but I wanted it to be positive. And I struggled. So after that event and seeing her with the girls, I walked out of there and I'm like, that is it. I'm not going to share the name yet because I'm still developing the website and stuff. But that is what I want to do. I want to do a one-day event for widows and their daughters and widowers that is powerful and uplifting and empowering. And I took it all from her. And I actually, on Sunday, we finally connected on it. And she's like, I'm in. So that will be coming. And it's going to be an annual event here in Vegas.
That is so beautiful. And I also sounds like you have an amazing relationship with your daughter, because I loved the fact that you did recently launch your own marketing agency, and your daughter designed the logo.
She did. She is incredible. She still doesn't understand why it's such a big deal. I'm like, Jazzy, you took this little sketch thing, and like, you don't want to see my sketching. I'm like, you took this piece of paper I handed you and you created that. She doesn't understand, but then of course she's like, because we have talked about, licensing rights and whether you pay a one-time fee or you get a per usage fee.
Yeah.
We talked about in the past about other work because she's created T-shirts and stuff. She's an amazing artist. And she was like, so what am I going to get paid for this? So me being smart, thinking I'm being smart, I said, you know what? I'll just take you shopping later. Would have been cheaper to cut her.
Oh, no.
But hey, we did it.
It was a good day. It was a good bonding moment over shopping.
But she is my in-house graphic designer at this point. But it was great, to make her a part of this journey.
That's so awesome. I love that. And I can't wait to keep following your story, Suzanne. And thank you so much for jumping on Storyteller, giving the shout outs, sharing a little bit about your wonderful, badass career as well. And we just appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.